Thank you, listeners, for joining us for Wednesday's edition of Elko Live, in which we are catching up on Elko County news and issues in advance of the County Commission regular meeting this afternoon. And I'm so pleased to feature our Commissioner, Delmo Andreozzi, in studio. Welcome.
Lori, it's great to be here today with you. It's good to see you. After that cold snap last week, it sure feels very nice this week. I love autumn and fall around here. It's just a great time. I just always wish it would last a little bit longer.
Yeah, I love sliding into the season when we do have these beautiful sunny days and temperatures are really temperate. I guess, they're enjoyable. So, obviously we're sitting down a day in advance recording today's program to accommodate my travel schedule. I get to go with librarians from the Elko County Library. They're doing some outreach in Crescent Valley and Carlin. And I said, that sounds like a fun road trip. Let's do that together. So.
Oh, how nice. Well, thank you for supporting them and going along with them, Lori. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate the invitation. So what a great way to spend the midday with our librarians. And I know you'll get an update at a future meeting on some of their events and activities, and it'll probably include what happens in Crescent Valley and Carlin. I know you'll open today's meeting with the Fire Commission meeting. That'll be, I think it's 3 or it's in the meeting itself, right?
1:15 is what time that starts, yeah.
So you'll get an update on some of the programs, projects, the training, prevention, and the expansion that Fire Chief Matt Peterson has planned.
Yeah, and there is an item on here regarding the wildland fire mitigation, and this also reminds me to take an opportunity to thank all the counties that came here to Elko for the annual NACO conference that we had here. And this was something that was circulating out there with the PUC has exhibited some concerns about some of the rates that NV Energy is charging in respect to how this fire mitigation issue has been happening or is going on. And I remember when Matt first brought the program to us, I thought, this is just way too good to be true. It's impossible. There's no way this is going to happen. And it's been a wonderful program and a partnership that we have with NV Energy. And many of the counties, I don't think everybody has taken advantage of this program, but it's really about being proactive in reducing these fuels and fire mitigation in advance of wildland fires, because we know how devastating they can be. And the idea is they buy equipment and help us with manpower, and with this, which gives us a lot more depth. But the main objective is to clear out and clean these right-of-ways where this power infrastructure is, so that if for some reason they have a spark from some of their infrastructure, it doesn't start a massive fire, or if there is a fire, that there's some fire break so that you don't lose that infrastructure in place due to a fire. It's a very proactive move. If you look at what has happened, I think with PG&E in the California area, they've electrical company has been hit really, really hard, and of course these fires are so devastating. It's again trying to be proactive and trying to find ways to mitigate it on the front side and reduce these fuels. And we could spend a whole show talking about, other strategies that we should consider doing that. But this is just this one program, and it's really about. And I met the person who heads this up. I did see that individual at the NACO conference, and I said, "Hey, this has been a great program, and I just wanted you to know how much we appreciate it, because it, like I said, it gives us some depth and gives us the ability to, really expand what we're doing in terms of reducing fuels on our. We've got so much fuel out there, Lori. So this would be a letter of support, presumably, if it's approved, that we would send to the PUC to advise them, hey, we support this program because we do see the benefit from being proactive with this. So that's kind of what is on the agenda, and I personally support it. I suspect that the other commissioners do, because we have seen a lot of benefit from this.
Right. Again, it's in direct response to these catastrophic wildfires that have happened in California and elsewhere. And fuels
Right.
mitigation is the top topic, if you will, by even agencies who manage the public lands. So fits right in with that strategy. And if we could let, Southern Nevada folks and I've seen news reports that come out that are critical of what the utilities are doing, Delmo. So I agree that I don't think they understand the depth of where some of the funding is going for these programs. They're not buying season tickets or parking passes
Right.
and things like that.
And even if maybe they're not directly impacted, they certainly are by smoke and everything else that happens. So again, I think it's just about it's totally appropriate to you want your PUC to look at all sides of this and make good informed decisions. It's absolutely the right thing for them to do. I think we want to just chime in and just say, hey, there is a benefit to this, and make sure that they have that piece of information as well.
Delmo Andreozzi is our Elko County Commissioner and our guest here on Elko Live today as we're sitting down in advance of this afternoon's meeting. So that kind of sums up some of the highlights of the Fire Commission meeting in advance of the regular meeting. And probably topping the agenda, Delmo, as far as the time allotted, and there is a proposal for a sort of a convenience store, if you will, or a project anyway that's drawn both support and opposition out at Lucky Nugget, and for good reason.
Yeah, we have essentially we have 3 items on our agenda, and they're all 3 appeals, and that's all part of the public process. And so there are 3 components to this. So one component is a master plan update, and the master plan update required a supermajority of the Planning Commission, which the Planning Commission did not have. And in addition to that, there was during the same Planning Commission, there was the rezone. The rezone really can't happen with that. It's all tied to the master. Everything's linked together. So there was a rezone that also went through the Planning Commission at the same meeting, and then you had a conditional use permit. The conditional use permit is really required because there's a concept of a person has acquired some property, 3 properties. I don't know how long this individual has owned them, but wants to co-mingle them and create RV parking, and maybe it looks like, from what I've seen, some yurts, as well as some other conveniences for the neighborhood. So, there is an appeal out there for these items, so they are all 3 on our agenda. For me personally, and it's really easy to look back and Monday morning quarterback this, and I certainly don't mean to do that. So, and again, I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but I do think that the master plan amendment really needs to go back, and it just needs to, and we really can't take any action on the other 2 items until that is resolved. But I really think that should be remanded back to the Planning Commission so that they have the supermajority, so it goes through that proper format before it comes to the commission. And I think again, hindsight's 2020. I think that in light of the fact that didn't have a supermajority, none of the other items should have probably went on, but they did. So here we are. For me, and if the rest of the commission wants to try to tackle these at the commission, then we'll certainly do that. But for me, I'd like to see the master plan go back, and so that the whole thing is vetted individually. It's kind of like, to me, it's like we looked at 3 separate items without having the first item addressed. And then, so I think that's what needs to happen. That's at least my viewpoint, and that's what I'll express tomorrow at the commission meeting.
And of course, we're sitting down in advance of the county commission meeting, so that's why the commissioner referred to tomorrow, which is fine.
Sorry
it's
about
Wednesday.
that.
You're fine, Delmo. It's obviously we appreciate the opportunity to record this program, and it does give the appearance, looking at the agenda with these items so closely bundled, if you will, that things could be rushed. And so, in that you do have support and opposition in pretty significant measure, it's a good idea to take that step back. When in your discovery on this, Delmo, and other commissioners, are you finding out much about the county master plan? I mean, is there such a thing, and does it need updating?
Yeah, and that's They all do, certainly, and there are a variety of master plans that are out there, and there is a master plan that was created specifically for this Lucky Nugget area, right? So there is a lot of history there, and they actually kind of thought through that a little bit, and they thought at some point when the area gets enough population that they actually had 5 parcels identified to be C2 zoning. So I mean, they actually had that in their master plan. So but again, it's been one of those plans that's sat out there for a long time. That community has completely changed out there, and you can see. I mean, I can see certainly the conveniences of having some facilities out there. You run out of butter or something like that, you don't have to run all the way to even though Spring Creek's not very far away or whatever. It is nice to have some conveniences, but it needs to be. You're mixing these uses of residential uses with something that's a little bit more intense. And I mean, they did, and they actually went through this. Let's see if I have the date right. When they did what I'm telling you about, I think was in the 90s. So, but then again, that community has changed significantly in the last 20 years. There's a lot of population out there compared to, when it first started, and even in the 90s. I mean, there's been a lot more population that's gone out there. So, I definitely think there's, a good use for some type of convenience, but it's all, again, it goes back to that scope and scale and location and access, and because I'm a big property rights advocate, but I think there's property rights on both sides of the fence. So we just need to make sure, or in my opinion, we need to make sure that we do all our due diligence and afford people opportunity. And here again is you're seeing the public process come to fruition. So if someone feels aggrieved, they have the right to appeal it, and that's where we're at.
All right. And again, for listeners' benefit, if you're not familiar with Lucky Nugget as a subdivision, very rural, it is in fact the area that encompasses the South Fork Reservoir. So you can expect some recreation, tourist type use, but obviously it's turned into a great deal of retirees call Lucky Nugget home too. And so they would like to maintain their peace if at all possible. So again, it requires a balance, and that's why the County Planning Commission made the recommendations that are now being considered by the county commissioners, because it is being appealed in that sense. So parts of it. All right.
Exactly. And like I said, there's all 3. So I in my simplistic way of thinking about this, if the master plan gets remanded back, I don't see how we can take any action on any of the other 2 items. So if that's what happens, I would suspect that, and it's kicking the can down the road a little bit. But for me, like I said, I think it's the right thing to do. It's
all about the process. County Commissioner Delmo Andreozzi on our radio show, Elko Live. Again, the County Commission meets in regular session. The Fire District meets, Fire Commission, before about 1:15, I think you said, in time for the 1:30 regular meeting.
Yep.
So we're skipping around on the agenda a little bit just to give attention to some of the, I guess, meatier items. And there is a proposal here, consideration to award a bid to remodel Spring Creek Fire Station, because now that you've added the ambulance service to Spring Creek. But concern has come back because, I mean, honestly, like everything else, this has come in way over budget.
Yeah, it has. And so, at this time, the recommendation is to not award. And I actually support that, because maybe there are better ways to do this, and we need to continue to, examine the service and, understand what's happening out there. But I am glad that we do have the ambulance service out there. I know that we had, we've had some life-saving activities that have taken place so far just by having that infrastructure out there. And so certainly glad to do that. But I think that in this case, there's always more than one way to skin a cat, and maybe, ideally, if you can co-locate similar uses, there's some benefits to that. But maybe there are other avenues that we can take a look at, or cheaper alternatives to do, rather than rather than to do this. So we had, $500,000 earmarked, and that's not, not enough to do what we want to do. So
Do you recall what the bid came in at?
it is on this. So let's keep talking, and I'll let you know what that is.
Come up with that, because as you said, 500,000 is nothing to sneeze at to remodel.
And $500,000 just doesn't go very far. I'm sorry, what you're on it right there. So what is the item?
Fire Protection District item 1.2.
Here it is.
And
here it is.
Okay.
I got it.
He is.
I have a network error.
He's all about the technology. Oh my gosh. That's
Lori,
okay.
I have a network error.
You have a network error.
Access.
That's all right.
It's way over budget.
It's way over budget. Let's just say it's way over budget, and the number is yet to come to light. But no, we know what it is. And so, rejecting the bids, putting off the remodel, will that impact the service? That's probably the most important thing.
No. Right now we are leasing a place. It's actually very close to the firehouse. So, I don't know if that. Who knows? I mean, $500,000 is a lot of lease payment too. So, I think it's just one of those things. Let's regroup. Let's see if there's a better solution and try again. And it could be timing. Maybe, sometimes you're a little bit better when you get this late in the season. Sometimes you're just better off to wait until the winter and everybody's not as busy, and then maybe re-advertise it and see if you get some better numbers.
I have to reflect, wasn't timing great on rebuilding the Lions Club camp, because can you imagine being, shut out of that project, Delmo, because of cost?
Yeah.
That just came together. So
yeah, that one, been so fortunate and so blessed, and the community has been so awesome. From all the contractors and all the donations and all the work that's gone into that, and I still think about how devastated I felt personally about not just the fire that impacted the camp, but the fire that impacted that canyon. And, it's great to see a lot of the Quake and Aspen recovering. And it is, if you haven't been up there, I don't think there's much time left before the leaves are all gone. So if you haven't been up there, you should take a look at it and, see what we've done to the pavilion. There's, we've been able to salvage the old fireplace. And so, there's a lot of great things, but a lot of people working together. And that's that's what I think is so amazing about that, is that, it wasn't any one organization. It was everybody coming together on that. I mean, the whole community, and had great leadership at Lions and Chuck Stout, who's just really adopted that from Warner Whipple, who was was before him. So just it's a great facility. I thank you for bringing that up, Lori, because it is if you haven't seen that, you need to go for a visit. And it's being used.
Exactly.
We got RV spaces up. We've got the water infrastructure's rebuilt. We've got electricity. We've got solar. We've got solar power up there on the roof that's running the pavilion itself. So it's really something to see. If you haven't seen it in a while, go take a look.
Yeah, and I love reflecting on those things that, as you said, bring us together, because that came at a perfect time. And there are so many projects and interests that we can bring together to reflect just that kind of community care, Delmo. Mm-hmm. And so, together we can look for those opportunities as a community and really grow and be healthy that way. I know there's back to the agenda, but contract selection and approvals. Anytime someone sees transferring land, what that means. This is the Spring Creek ball fields, and whether or not those were held privately or quasi-public to the Spring Creek Association. What do you know about that?
Well, this is a piece of property that Elko County's owned for quite a long time. It's actually where our fire station is, right off of Lake Parkway, and the ball fields have been out there for a long time. So this has been one of those, really low, it might be $1 a year lease to Spring Creek, and I think that it's appropriate. They've had it there for a long time, and then they can kind of control their own destiny with what they want to do with it. So this is something, we have a value that was established at $85,000 for this parcel, an appraisal, and I think that's all we're doing is accepting the appraisal. But I think to get it conveyed into Spring Creek's hands it's the appropriate thing. It's really what they've been using for the benefit of the community out there.
Do you think they might preserve it then as open space, or it says for economic development? It's a pretty significant intersection.
Yeah, well, it's where their ball field is now. So I would expect that's that's quality of life issues, economic development, whatever you want to call it, but it definitely adds to the quality of life out there.
All right, that'll be interesting to see if it's retained as such, or if they relocate the ball field in order to accommodate another use. So.
You never know, I guess, right?
All right. So Elko County, again, being very generous in that conveyance, and the property, as you said, has been appraised at $85,000. Next on the agenda, a little bit vague in the intent or description, but a couple of letters being written, possibly by the county, and these have to do with our very own Great Basin College.
Yeah, these ones are interesting. I wasn't quite sure how or why they are on the agenda, but they are. So I understand that we had a commissioner request that they be put on the agenda, and that's certainly a prerogative that we have. So the one item that's on there is it's a discussion about writing a letter to Governor Lombardo, asking him for rural representation on the Board of Regents, because there's some discussion out there, or some rumors out there that the person that has just been elected is going to run for some state government. I don't know if it's assembly
Shelley
or
Crawford is, and she's only been a regent for 8 months, and she did indicate she has Democrat support in the South that she's going to seek that Senate seat.
I wasn't sure if it was Senate or Assembly or what it was, but I do know that's out there. But that you probably know the Board of Regents makeup as well as anybody else does, and it's definitely. It's lopsided, right? I mean, the legislature is lopsided, and I definitely think that we need some rural representation on here. But this individual hasn't won, hasn't even applied yet. So should we be aware of it? Should we keep our thumb on it? Absolutely, and kind of especially if it's something that's that our population. That's kind of I think that's one of the roles of local government, is that's how these issues get communicated to us, and then we make sure that the public's made aware of it. So, I think that it's a long way from happening. So, I know it's a what if at this point, because like I said, I don't even think filing opens until March. So. Certainly, someone can say something, but she would have to win too. So, to me, it seems a little premature, but it's good to at least get that information out and have that knowledge there.
And I did want to mention too that the reason I think that it is a political discussion in a sense, Delmo, is that this is a district that was redrawn, and it was redrawn by Democrats who were in control, and basically carved out this section of rural Nevada, and so rural Nevadans were given choices, and one of the regent selections is this Southern Nevada person who was, she won the election, but for District 8, since its inception, Delmo, Dorothy Gallagher held that position, Kevin Melcher, obviously, then it was held Kathy McAdoo.
And you talk about that redistricting, it didn't just impact that, it impacted our Senate seat and our Assembly seat. Our Assembly seat, Elko County's cut in half essentially, and I'm not necessarily I wouldn't necessarily criticize someone that's representing the Assembly, us on the Assembly on the west side of Elko County, but they don't live here. I don't know how they could even really fully understand or grasp what some of our concerns are. And that actually was one of the frustrations that I had, was that you remember there was a whole discussion on that item. I think it was AB 519 or 518, which was the Ojai School District. That was something that came up there, and we didn't, no one even contacted us to let us know it was out there. We kind of found out about it, the
because
hard way.
Alexis Hansen was a representative for Hawaii,
right?
Of all things.
So so I think the redistricting has some really bad consequences here at the local level. And so, because we end up putting people in these positions that, frankly, I don't think really fully understand what we have up here. So, I think it's early to say what will happen here, but it certainly, again, I think it's important for us to know that that's a possibility, and hopefully that we can have some influence on whatever decision, because as I understand it, if there is a vacancy there, it's my understanding that the governor would appoint that vacancy.
So obviously that leads into the next item of discussion under the same topic, which is another letter, and this would be to UNR President Brian Sandoval and the Board of Regents. Again, this proposal to merge UNR and Great Basin College, this is also tough.
Yeah, and this one too, I think is a little bit mysterious too, and again, I think there's some grumblings and concerns out in the community, and so if there are, it's good to get that out and discussed in advance so that, we kind of, I think everybody knows what Great Basin College has and is, and what we hope it will be in the future for, that it's got a big footprint now, but it was born and bred right here. So you've got a lot of people that are attached to that. So, I know there are a lot of discussions about shared use things, and I don't know if there's been any formal conversation about a merger, but I think that if there, at least someone would. My impression is that someone at least thinks there's that potential, or thinks that there's that concern, or that there's that. I maybe use the word mistrust, or not fully understanding what the objective is with all of that. So, again, this is coming on without any real meat on the bone. I would hope that, again, that if something like that were to happen, that would need to go to the Board of Regents for approval. I don't know, but again, there again, we know that the Board of Regents it's lopsided in terms of representation. Mm-hmm. So, again, it's about. I see it kind of like ringing the alarm. Hey, there's this concern, and certainly I think that there are some grumblings out in the community, but I don't know that we fully know what, other than these shared agreements that we've heard about. I think that there are concerns that there's discussions of a merger, and I think if there are, that we should be at the table.
Yeah, again, local leadership will make all the difference in that. I know that President Helens appeared before both the City Council and the County Commission, and again, she detailed what kind of arrangements were already being shared, but really not stepping into the bigger picture, which is, again, a collaboration or a merger could really benefit the region, the students, the faculty, but these are people that have been excluded from the discussion, and I think that that's why the consternation, the confusion, and frankly, there's dysfunction within the Great Basin College organization right now, which is very unfortunate because it takes time to build these things back. So hopefully, if there is action by the County Commission, it will be to simply support Great Basin College, but to assert that stewardship, if you will, that we believe in our college and we want to maintain our autonomy. It doesn't have anything to do with the name, but it has everything to do with the opportunity. Well,
and I think when we talk about smarter ways of doing business and stuff like that, I think that there are some opportunities for shared services, and I'm not even just talking about system of higher education. I'm talking about cities and counties, and there's so much opportunity because the resources, the human capital isn't out there like it was, so how, I think we're going to need to figure out ways to collaborate with, but again, we still are the city of, in the case I'm explaining now, we're still the city of Elko, we're still the city of Carlin, we're still Elko, there's still those things, but, is there something that we can share that kind of makes sense? Well, maybe it's IT, or maybe it's HR, or maybe it's paper rack with it. Who knows what it could be. So I think that you're right. I think that discussion is not very well. I think there's just enough that hasn't been. There's a suspicion out there. What does it look like? So let's just get all the cards on the table so everybody's aware.
And communication is key, Delmo. And if such a letter does lead to the community helping to choose the leadership in the future, I think that will play a great role in helping us understand what a collaboration could do to benefit the community and the university, because obviously they see benefits in higher education, in distance learning. We're the pioneers here on campus at Great Basin College, for online learning, and that could be key to growth. At the same time, we sustain what we do have at Great Basin College. So if nothing else, allowing the community, allowing the faculty, allowing students to help choose leadership instead of the Board of Regents, bypassing what the community desires. I think that maybe this is what the attempt is, Delmo, is just to say.
It could be, and I think the other good thing about it is like what I'm trying to say is like, so for the first person for District 8 who's apparently going to, that was news to me until I saw it on the agenda, and then I had to do a little bit of digging to figure out what was going on. But there again, it's about knowledge and being prepared, and so again, the same thing with this other issue. I think we need to be, I hate using this word because I think it gets overly used, but if people have concerns, then that tells me that whatever it is that we're doing, that maybe it's not transparent enough. That word, I think, gets a little bit overused. But again, I think it really points to a systemic issue that if there's concern, it's because they're not seeing the whole picture, right? So I think that there's some value. While the two items caught me off guard, there's some value again, and I think that's the purpose of local government, is to be able to take these local concerns and elevate them and get them on the radar.
Thanks, Delmo. Obviously, it'll be a busy agenda today, and we need to remind listeners that we're talking about the County Commission meeting. That'll open with the Fire Commission discussion at 1:15, followed by the regular County Governing Board meeting at 1:30. You can visit in person or online, elkocountynv.net, or there at the County Commission meeting chambers, Nannini Administrative Building, right there on Court Street.
Yeah. And we welcome everybody and all, people to participate in any form they choose to.
Yes, and again, if you have questions, opinions, concerns, do speak up. I mean, the board does want to hear from the citizens that you're governing. Is there anything that you didn't get to today, Delmo?
Well, I know there's one on here that's kind of looks a little bit arbitrary. If anybody sees it, it's got some old history to it. It's the first item on the agenda. It has this Clover Valley building. There is a nonprofit group that's being created. There's a parcel out there that wasn't even assessed taxes until somewhere in the 1990s, and this thing's been around since the 1800s. But it seems like it's been over the course. It had been used as some type of a community event. It's my understanding that there's no improvements on the property right now, but there's a delinquent or late fee. I mean, the annual assessment on this parcel is $8 a year. So it's really, is it a year?
It's devalued.
Yeah, it really is. It's
okay.
Really, so it's like, and it's actually held in trust by Elko County. There's this nonprofit. Does it make sense? Hey, let's possibly deed this over to this nonprofit, and maybe it can have a community use.
Wouldn't that be great? You've done that in Tuscarora. You've done that, yeah.
And I think about these community centers and how valuable they are and it doesn't matter how big or small a community is.
Right.
It's a place for people to gather.
For meetings, potlucks, just fundraise, anything that community wants to do. It's the meaning of community, just to have a place to assemble, because not everybody wants everybody at their barn or their living room or out in the yard, whatever it might be, which I'm sure they're used to doing. So
it's just an old remnant piece. I think there's a number of ways to maybe deal with it, but it's got some delinquent taxes on it. So, but super interesting. It was created way back in the 1800s, and so here we are getting to dip our toe back in our history a little bit. So that one, it seems a little bit, when you look at the agenda item, it's a little bit hard to decipher, but that's basically
pretty much the intent. And I'm sure Clover Valley is a great place. It's beautiful out there, and I'm sure if they get that property and they want to do something, they'll invite the community out, just like they do the turkey shootout at Jigs and Star Valley Community Hall and Historical Society Hall out in Tuscarora. There's just plenty of examples.
And they're all so great. And that one, the Tuscarora one, we're traveling and we get to go. It's just it's so nice to, and Midas, they use a fire station, and so it's really good to have those types of uses out there. And the only other thing that was on the agenda, and I'm not sure how we're doing on time, but I just briefly wanted to mention it. We do have that infrastructure tax that we use half for roads and half for the fire department. Chief Peterson has come up with a grant process to help us collaborate with our local volunteer groups and, kind of come up with creative ways to reach out and get these fire stations, because we got a lot of, and I don't know if you've seen some of our fire infrastructure. We have come light years ahead of where we were. And, just building that infrastructure, and you need a good place to keep this stuff. And we rely so heavily on our volunteers. So it's about, he's kind of come up with a way to earmark some of those infrastructure funds to build other fire stations. And it looks like it's a great idea that he's come up with, and he's very creative, and that's that can-do spirit that we have just permeates all throughout Elko County. And that's what I love. I love solutions. I love finding solutions to problems. And we have a lot of great people that do that.
Yeah, Delmo. Thank you so much. A happy Nevada Day. It's coming up. The parade, 27th. That's a Friday, 11 o'clock, downtown Elko. Home means Nevada.
Home means Nevada. Absolutely. Lori, it's always so good to be on the radio with you. I thank you for this opportunity to share information with the public.